Welcome to Economics for Everyone. Today I'm back again with one of the important videos on budget, which we call in economics financial statement. So let's begin with the budget, what is basically budget in economics? It's basically a financial statement. It's a financial statement of expected, because we have heard about the budget proceedings in the parliament, in the news, in the media. We talks about the budget, but basically it's an expected and estimated government receipts and government expenditures. That's we call it the payments. So budget के दो ही parts हैं. One is the receipts and other is the payment part. For a particular year, suppose this year we are talking about year 2022-23. Why we write this year in economics? Because our financial year starts with 1st April to 31st March. This is our financial year. That's why we usually quote 2022-23. So why there's a need of budget? Basically, it's a part of a fiscal policy. Fiscal policy deals with the government expenditure, government subsidies, government taxes, public debt, and deficit financing. These are the components of fiscal policy, and budget is an instrument. And under Indian Constitution, Article 112 and to 117 deals with the budget. And most importantly, every state and a UT has to prepare budget as per Article 2022. And most importantly, the Consolidated Fund of India comprises of all the receipts and the payments of money pertaining to the government. All the money pertaining to the government. So budget deals with, here we talk of only the government budget. So what are the objectives and the importance of budget? Why every year in the month of Feb, government is preparing budget. There's a complete division at the ministry level that's working for it. And most importantly is redistribution of income. We have heard about the income inequalities all over the world. Usually 80% of world income. Y stands for the income. 80% of world income is owned by 20% of population. This is the extent of inequality, and budget has a remedy in that, and in the form of tax to the rich and subsidies for the poor. And second is reallocation of resources on yearly basis. And most importantly, economic stability, because one of the big challenges for all the governments is inflation. So inflation as well as deflationary pressures can be dealt with the budget. Every government has a key public sector undertakings. So in all those undertakings are managed through a budget. Most importantly, we control the economy through fiscal measure. Fiscal stands for two things: government revenue and government expenditure. So if you want to control the economy, you have a fiscal measures in the form of tax, in the form of public debt, in the form of deficit financing. So we can control the economy. And another important is budget में हम fiscal discipline की बात करते हैं कि हमारा how we can curtail unproductive expenditure, and as well as the expenditure administration efficiency. Budget talks about the allocations to the different departments of government. Now, these are the components of budget. This is now we go to some technical parts of the budget. Budget has two components. One is the revenue budget and other is the capital budget. These are the two budgets, and within that we have a revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. इसको थोड़ा सा समझने की जरूरत है, बिकॉज नाउ आई टॉक ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स फॉर एवरीवन नीड टू नो द बजट बिकॉज इट इम्पैक्ट्स एवरी ह्यूमन being in this world. Now, revenue budget, it talks about which those receipts which does not cause corresponding liability nor reduction in assets. This is a revenue part. For example, tax. Tax se government receives the tax. It's a revenue for the government, but in return, government has. It's not mandatory government should pay anything. So it's a unilateral payment. इससे गवर्नमेंट की एसेट्स में कमी नहीं आती ना. सेकंड, कैपिटल रिसीट्स क्या होता है? इट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ अ बजट. इसमें इट क्रिएट्स लाइबिलिटी or causes reduction in the assets. For example, government can sell any of its company. That's a part of capital receipts. Or government can get loans from any country or any bank. It has to repay back. Similarly, expenditure I will talk later. This is the year 2023. This year's budget estimates for the year. These are the numbers which you can trace with component wise, especially revenue receipts जिसकी मैं बात कह रहा था. It comprises of tax and non-tax revenues, capital receipts and expenditure in this form. These are the two broader classification of the budget. Now we have a taxes because revenue receipts comprises of tax and non-tax revenues. तो taxes में हमारे पास कॉर्पोरेशन टैक्स का एक मेजर पोर्शन होता है विच इज चार्ज्ड ऑन द कंपनीज, स्पेशली ऑन द कॉर्पोरेशंस ऑन देयर प्रॉफिट्स. उसके बाद है इनकम टैक्स विच ऑल वी नो. इनकम टैक्स, वंस योर इनकम एक्सीड्स अ पर्टिकुलर स्लैब, there's a government is imposing a tax because it's a compulsory levy. You have crossed a particular limit. उसके बाद custom duties, either at dockyard there's an import export of things, and there's a excise duty, there's a sales tax, and nowadays we call it goods and service tax. It's now imposed. It has the पुरानी regime of taxation थी उसको indirect tax, उसको collective नाम है goods and service tax, estate duty and the gift tax. These are the tax revenues to the government. And there are non-tax revenues like income from public sector undertakings. As I told in the beginning, there are good number of public sector undertakings in India where from government gets the revenue. Especially we have a railways is the big example. Indian Oil Corporation sale we call it Navratnas. उसके बाद government can charge fee and fines at different levels, different stages, like registration fee at the court, hospital, schools, etc. That's a fee for a government. Or fines like अपनी traffic violation की, there can be a fine. It goes to the treasury of a government. उसके बाद फिजिकल सर्विसेज लाइक करेंसी, कॉइनेज, मीटिंग, इससे गवर्नमेंट को पैसा आता है. गवर्नमेंट आल्सो गेट सम ग्रांट्स एंड डोनेशंस फ्रॉम वर्ल्ड बैंक, फ्रॉम अदर कंट्रीज. इनकम फ्रॉम सेल ऑफ स्पेक्ट्रम, या दैट्स अ इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग. लाइक टुडे वी टॉक ऑफ 5G और अर्लियर 4G. 4G spectrum is sold, then government gets a good amount of revenue from that head. उसके बाद interest receipts or the dividends. Dividend is basically a profit earned. Profit earned means a dividend. So interest receipts, or there's a term estate, that's the income out of property left by the people who have without a legal heir. So someone has a property of in crores, and that definitely that goes to the government if does not have a legal heir. So these are the tax and non-tax revenues. उसके बाद कैपिटल रिसीट्स, क्योंकि बजट के दो हिस्से हैं रेवेन्यू में भी, रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स एंड कैपिटल रिसीट्स. कैपिटल रिसीट्स क्या होता है? पहले रिकवरी फ्रॉम लोन्स. इवन इंडिया हैज ऑफर्ड लोन टू डिफरेंट कंट्रीज. वहाँ से जो वापस लोन्स की रिपेमेंट की सूरत में आता है या इंटरेस्ट की सूरत में, दैट्स अ पार्ट ऑफ कैपिटल रिसीट्स. लोन इज ऑफर्ड टू अदर्स और एसेट्स और इवन नॉन डेट कैपिटल रिसीट्स. उसके बाद borrowings and other liabilities. Government can also borrow from public. They can borrow from Reserve Bank of India. They can borrow from rest of the world. They can borrow from market by short term, issuing a short term treasury bills. They can get the money. You can raise the loans from the market. Even issuance of treasury bills, like government has a good amount in the form of general provident fund or a new pension scheme. Now, once we move to the expenditure part, this is then important. Why? Because revenue expenditure, it neither create assets nor any reduction. As I told in the beginning, like wage bill for a government, जो मुलाजमों की सैलरी मिलती है, that's basically part of revenue expenditure of a government. Interest payments of any sort, उससे गवर्नमेंट को नीदर assets create होते हैं nor reduction in the liability. Third, expenditure on subsidies, especially transfer payments. Transfer payments is a term which is unilateral. Government देती है to a particular individual or without any return from them, like scholarship, pensions. An expenditure of defense is also a part of a revenue expenditure. अब capital expenditure में expenditure on land and buildings. Expenditure on land and buildings because assets create होते हैं. That's a part of capital expenditure. उसके बाद expenditure on machinery and equipment. If government gets a machinery of any sort, national hydropower project के लिए कोई machinery लाई, that's a part of capital expenditure. उसके बाद purchase of shares and loans by central government to state government. Moving ahead, expenditure, there are broadly 4 types of expenditure. One is a developmental expenditure in the form of expenditure on roads, transport, health, rural development, schools, etc. That's a developmental expenditure. Non-development mean, for example, in the form of जो taxes collect करती है government, उसके लिए एक बाज़ाब्ता there's a department in the at central level, at state level, at UT levels. वहाँ पे जो मुलाजिम काम करते हैं उन पे भी जो खर्चा आता है, that's a non-developmental expenditure. Or old age pension, government pays subsidies on food, that's a non-developmental expenditure. Plan expenditures, obviously, when India has a mixed economy which adopts the 5-year planning system. In that, the plan for 5 years, the expenditure incurred on the plan, program and activities will be a plan expenditure. Obviously, and non-plan is other than plan. Now, when we talk of budget 2022 and 23, I have tried to simplify the concepts of budget for everyone, especially the students of commerce, economics and management. Now, if we move to the budget 2022 and 23, इसमें सबसे अहम चीज़ कुछ बड़ी टर्म में हमें सुनने को मिली और हमने देखी, दैट्स अ पीएमएस गति शक्ति. दैट्स बेसिकली अ एक्सपेंडिचर on infrastructure, because there has been a COVID pandemic, there has been economy has slowed down. For that, government of India have introduced a huge proportion of budget for roads, railways, airport and waterways. That's a building of infrastructure. It's a twofold benefit. One is it has a infrastructure, economic infrastructure will create multiple jobs, and plus it's a trade, it has allied benefits. Second, obviously we talk about the inclusive development these days, not only the development of a particular section of a society or a particular state or a UT or particular region. No, we talk of inclusiveness. We don't talk development of unbalanced growth in the economy, like people in the Delhi or the Mumbai metros can grow more proportionately than people in the rural areas. So inclusive growth. And obviously fiscal management process has been introduced, and it's a part of a budgeting process. And the promotion of technology. Obviously it's a blessing of a COVID pandemic, now things are moving in the e-governance mode. That's why there's a huge digital infrastructure is being, government has tried to introduce even digital university itself. I might have written it. And there are different types of portals created by the government of India, and they have provisions within the budget, and especially to promote technology enabled development and to create digital infrastructure, digital university, digital. One more important thing is introduction of digital currency. इसको थोड़ा सा मैं explain करूँ. What does digital currency mean? For example, government of India हर साल good amount of money through RBI economy में infuse करती है. उसमें what they will do, digital money is not in the form of like your debit card. असल में इस थोड़ा समझ, it's a new concept, that's why I want to make it. Debit card में क्या होता है, आपके अकाउंट में पैसा होता है, उसके बाद you can easily withdraw through your ATM card, credit, debit card, and or even you can seek a credit. But digital currencies, for example, अगर गवर्नमेंट को इस साल 100 रुपया इकोनॉमी में डालना है, इसमें what they will do, 90 will be in the form of a cash, जैसे पुरानी precedents, and 10 will be in the form of digital currency. That will be somewhere in the cloud. That will be somewhere in the cloud, which you can have access to that, but that's not in the form of a physical. It's not in the form of a bank, in the form of demand drafts, or in the form of cash, or in the form of fixed deposits, which is the best part of C plus DD plus OD. That is cash with the public. No, it won't be part of demand deposits in the bank, which you can withdraw anytime, or it can be other deposits or a fixed deposits. No, it will be somewhere in the cloud. That's a digital currency. That is going to get introduced in this budget, and they have introduced it. Now there's a lot of focus on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal, which India has to achieve, because this is the decade of action from 2021 to 2030. While there's a lot of focus on sustainability and a lot of focus on green energy and climate action, especially clean mobility system. There is this is the first time government has introduced mental health as a part of budget. There's a budgetary allocation for the mental health. There can be different schemes or interventions in future. And another takeaways from the budget 202 and 23 is there can be a investment on sunrise opportunities in the private investment. That means the industries which are emerging, they have a big future ahead. And the important slogan of government of India is that Atmanirbhar Bharat. Especially they want to develop, they don't want to import even those goods and services, and especially for the defense, not from through import, but they want to develop their own domestic market for defense goods and services. In budget they have mentioned 68% of capital procurement will be from domestic market, and that's a big I can say thing in the budget 202, because it can definitely boost the local economy, domestic economy. And after that, there is a emergency credit for medium and small scale industries, because economy is in distress, industry is in distress. So obviously government has kept a scope, like our JK Bank or other banks have introduced emergency credit during last couple of years, and they have given जो EMIs का जो एक मंथली EMI पे करना था, उसमें से थोड़ा सा भी they have relaxed a norm for from last couple of years, because economy is in distress. And most importantly, government of India want to introduce different special educational zones, not only economic zones, but that can be educational zones. Then can be a world-class universities can be established there. They have kept the name GIFT. सो दिस इज द वायर फ्रॉम रुपी कम्स, क्योंकि बजट के दो हिस्से हैं, रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स एंड कैपिटल. देयर इज समथिंग कॉल्ड रिसीट्स. ये पैसा कहाँ से आता है? दो तरीकों से, रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स एंड कैपिटल रिसीट्स. टू वेज, रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स एंड कैपिटल रिसीट्स. तो इसमें सबसे ज्यादा जो पैसा कहाँ से आता है गवर्नमेंट को? दैट्स बेसिकली फ्रॉम बोरोइंग्स. जो उधार हर साल गवर्नमेंट लेती है पैसा, डिफरेंट चाहे कंट्रीज से बारो करती हैं, बैंक्स, वर्ल्ड बैंक से बारो करती हैं या अदर बैंक से बारो करती हैं. दैट्स अ 35%. दिस इज द 35% जो बजट का जो रेवेन्यू रिसीट है, दैट कम्स फ्रॉम बोरोइंग एंड अदर लाइबिलिटीज. तो ये इंपॉर्टेंट. यूजुअली हम एक कुछ मिसकंसेप्शंस हैं, वो यूजुअली से दैट बजट का जो मैक्सिमम प्रोपोर्शन वो दैट माइट बी कम फ्रॉम टैक्सेस. नो, टैक्स इंडिया में सम 1% पे टैक्स. उसके बाद देयर इज अ कॉरपोरेशन टैक्स, इनकम टैक्स, दे आर द 15%. दिस टैक्स रेवेन्यू. एंड देयर द अदर गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्सेस का एक अच्छा मेजर पोर्शन है, 16% गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स से आ जाता है. उसके बाद देयर इज अ स्मॉल कस्टम ड्यूटी, देयर इज अ यूनियन एक्साइज ड्यूटी, एंड नॉन टैक्स रेवेन्यूज ओनली 5% है जो हम कॉरपोरेशन से अर्न करते हैं, लाइक इंडियन रेलवे, इंडियन ऑयल कॉरपोरेशन और अदर स्टील अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया. उनसे सिर्फ 5% कलेक्शन होती है. दिस इज वायर फ्रॉम मनी कम्स. इट कम्स फ्रॉम रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स एंड कैपिटल रिसीट्स. और कैपिटल रिसीट्स का 35% है और नॉन डेट का 2%. उसके बाद खर्चा कहाँ पे होता है? वायर फ्रॉम मनी कम्स एंड वायर इट गोज. तो इसमें सबसे अहम चीज जो है, दैट्स अ इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट 20%. 25% ऑफ द बजट गोज टू द इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट, नॉट द प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट. जो हर साल गवर्नमेंट बारो करती है 30%, लाइक फॉर द ईयर 2022-23 के लिए 35% बारो किया, उसका जो हिस्सा इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट ऑफ प्रीवियस ईयर, दैट इज 20% ऑफ द बजट इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स. उसके बाद देर आर द पेंशन्स पे 4% खर्च होता है, गवर्नमेंट के एक्सपेंडिचर्स पे, सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम पे 16%, बिकॉज दिस द गुड अमाउंट. 16% इज स्पेंड ऑन सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम्स. जो बड़े बड़ी स्कीम्स आप देख रहे हैं उन पे जो खर्चा होता है, दैट इज चाहे नेशनल रूरल हेल्थ मिशन है या समग्र शिक्षा एजुकेशन में है या इंदिरा आवास योजना है रूरल डेवलपमेंट, तो उनमें गुड अमाउंट इज स्पेंड. तो अब डिफेंस में ओनली 8% खर्च होता है. तो ये कुछ मिसकंसेप्शंस हमारे यहाँ हैं, दैट आई वांट टू मेक इट क्लियर. दिस द सिंपल पाई डायग्राम विच मेक्स क्लियर कि किस एक्सपेंडिचर हेड पे कितना पैसा खर्च होता है. नाउ मूविंग अहेड, देयर ऑब्वियसली देयर इज अ डेफिसिट, क्योंकि रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स कम है और रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर ज़्यादा है. सिंपली कैपिटल रिसीट्स कम है, कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर कम है. तो ब्रॉडली वी कैन से जो बजटरी रिसीट्स है वो कम है देन बजटरी एक्सपेंडिचर. तो ऑब्वियसली जो पोर्शन यहाँ कम है, दैट विल बी कॉल्ड ए डेफिसिट. सिंपल, डेफिसिट कम है क्योंकि एक्सपेंडिचर ज़्यादा है देन receipts, both revenue and capital receipts. अब revenue deficit, there are the three types of deficits. One is the budgetary deficit, जहाँ पे government budget, government expenditure ज़्यादा है than government receipts. दूसरा है revenue receipts. यह है revenue expenditure is greater than revenue receipts. इससे क्या होता है? What does it mean? It means ये एक indication है that government can either cut their expenses or increase taxes. या तो गवर्नमेंट के रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर ज्यादा है या गवर्नमेंट कैन इंक्रीज द टैक्सेस, ऑल फॉर्म, इनकम टैक्स और गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स. दूसरा है फिस्कल डेफिसिट. इट इज टोटल बजटरी एक्सपेंडिचर माइनस टोटल बजटरी रिसीट्स अदर देन बोरोइंग्स. जो बोरो करते हैं 35% जो बोरो उसके बगैर. दैट्स इससे क्या होता है, जितना ज्यादा इकोनॉमी में बोरोइंग से पैसा था उस पर इन्फ्लेशनरी प्रेशर बढ़ जाता है. लाइक आई हैव मेंशन्ड हियर, इट कॉजेस इन्फ्लेशन. इंक्रीजेस फॉरेन डिपेंडेंसी से जो वर्ल्ड बैंक है या अदर कंट्रीज पे डिपेंडेंसी बढ़ती है, दैट्स नॉट अ गुड साइन फॉर इकोनॉमी. उसके बाद है एक्यूमुलेट्स फाइनेंशियल बर्डन फॉर फ्यूचर जनरेशंस. जो इस गवर्नमेंट ने अगर कर्जा लिया है बाकी कंट्रीज से, जो ऑनवर्ड जो फ्यूचर में गवर्नमेंट बनेगी उसके लिए बड़ी बर्डन रहती है. तो प्राइमरी डेफिसिट सिंपली मीन फिजिकल डेफिसिट माइनस इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स. So this was all about the budget. Hope I have tried to make it more simple and more comprehensive. Reason being, there is a first you need to understand what budget is. उसके बाद you need to understand its components. So once you have understand the components, all the 4 components of budget, then and only you can understand the budget of the 2022 and 23. That's important. To the figures of 2022-23 की बजट की फिगर you won't be able to understand unless आप बजट का जो स्ट्रक्चर है उसको नहीं समझेंगे. If you have any question, you can directly write to me on Economics for Everyone. I will be happy to answer you. See you in the next video. Thank you.